What's up, everyone? Welcome back to King Anime Review, and for this video, I will be reviewing episode 218 of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, titled Partners. So, the episode started off with Isshiki dashing at Kawaki, trying to put the karma seal back on him. Kawaki used a fire style jutsu, which looked like the fireball jutsu, and Isshiki just went right through it. And one thing that I forgot to mention in my last review, last week, Isshiki used some fire style jutsu in his fight against Biriyama Naruto, which he didn't use that in the manga. He never used any elemental nature release type jutsu or techniques in the manga, but in the anime they did have him use fire style, which I think that's cool because Kawaki also has fire style, and obviously he is 80% Otsutsuki. He has 80% of Isshiki's DNA/data stored inside of his body, so it makes sense that he would use the same type of nature jutsu or nature techniques that Isshiki uses. But yeah, Isshiki went right through the fire style, and then he basically grabbed Kawaki and he told him, "Hey, what you think you're a shinobi now or something?" And he basically said, "The only thing you're meant to be is a life snuffed out to be my vessel." And he was basically telling Kawaki that's reality. He'll always be just a vessel or whatever. He was talking crap to Kawaki, and he said that the reality of the situation is that Naruto gave him, Kawaki said he living in a world without Naruto. He doesn't want to live in a world without Naruto, basically. And Isshiki was he was basically saying that was kind of like his weakness, because he said because of Naruto, that arm that Naruto gave him, that he was able to find him and bring him here. And also because of Naruto and his feelings for Naruto, the affection that Naruto gave him, that's why Isshiki thought that, because of that, Isshiki thought that that's why that's why Kawaki revealed himself, which that was the reason why Kawaki revealed himself. But Isshiki thought he was actually going to successfully implant a karma seal on Kawaki. However, he ended up being tricked. He did implant a karma seal on Kawaki, but it was Kawaki's shadow clone, so it wasn't Kawaki's real body. And yeah, so everything that Naruto gave him, Naruto teaching him how to do ninjutsu, that ended up being very useful because it helped Kawaki trick Isshiki. And yeah, Isshiki put a karma seal on Kawaki's shadow clone, but it turned out to be a shadow clone, so the karma seal just disappeared, and then Kawaki's shadow clone vanished. And then Kawaki, he got his sweet revenge on Isshiki, the one who was torturing him and abusing him throughout the majority of his childhood via his vessel at the time, which was Jigen, his other vessel. And yeah, Kawaki actually got his revenge. He stepped on Isshiki and killed him. Yeah, Isshiki died. He stepped on Isshiki and finished Isshiki off, finally getting his revenge. And he said, "You can sleep however long you want, you jerk." And yeah, so that was a great scene. That's actually one of my favorite moments from the manga, where the scene where Kawaki actually finishes off Isshiki, and when he does the fire style jutsu plus the shadow clone jutsu. That was one of my favorite moments from the Boruto manga. And I just like seeing him. First of all, I like seeing him get his revenge on Isshiki. That was very great. And also, I liked, seeing him use ninjutsu for the first time. And the cool thing about it was he actually used Sasuke's signature ninjutsu technique, which is the fire style fireball jutsu, which was the first jutsu that Sasuke ever learned. And he also used Naruto's signature ninjutsu technique, which was the first jutsu that Naruto ever learned, which was the shadow clone jutsu. And then after that, Kawaki went to Naruto, and Sasuke came to Naruto as well, and he asked Naruto, "Are you okay?" Because that chakra expenditure wasn't normal from that technique you used. So he was asking if Naruto was okay or not. And then that's when Boruto came up and stabbed Sasuke's Rinnegan from behind. He came up from behind Sasuke, stabbed Sasuke's Rinnegan, and then he said basically it was revealed that Momoshiki was actually controlling Boruto's body at this point, just like how it was in the Boro fight. At the end of the Boro fight, Momoshiki managed to gain control over Boruto's body. And Kawaki was saying, hey, that's pathetic. Boruto, wake up. Don't let him control you, pretty much. And Boruto, or should I say Momoshiki, was talking through Boruto's body. And he was like, he basically said that, hey, Kawaki, you should be happy now because Isshiki's soul was extinguished. Isshiki's dead, and you're free now. But in your case, your freedom is only fleeting. Like it's gonna be going away pretty soon because he basically revealed that he's gonna sacrifice Kawaki to the Ten Tails in order to plant the divine tree, just like Isshiki was planning on doing with Boruto. And yeah, because basically, since Kawaki, basically the whole thing with the Karma Seal is, even though that Kawaki lost the Karma Seal, he's still 80% Aotsutsuki. That data that was extracted into his body is still there, and thus he's still 80% Aotsutsuki. So his body will be sufficient to be a sacrifice for the Ten Tails in order to create a divine tree. And then we seen a brief little taijutsu scene between BoruShiki versus Kawaki. They had a little bit of taijutsu. Sasuke, he joined, he kicked Boruto away, and then he noticed that Boruto, or should I say BoruShiki, Momoshiki, when he was controlling Boruto's body, he noticed that he wasn't absorbing ninjutsu at that point. And yeah, so he wasn't absorbing ninjutsu at that point, and because of that, that gave Sasuke the idea that maybe since Boruto lost consciousness, and that seems to be the trigger for Momoshiki taking control over Boruto's body, Sasuke thought that if Boruto regained chakra, that he would be able to regain consciousness. So yeah, Sasuke figured that out, and then he told Kawaki about that, and then after that, Boruto and Sasuke also used the Matarasu and stuff, but then, you know, Sasuke told Boruto the plan. Sasuke told Kawaki the plan, which was to basically use some jutsu that Momoshiki would have to absorb so that Boruto could regain consciousness. And then Momoshiki figured out that Sasuke knew what the plan. Figured out that Sasuke knew what was going on, so he hit him with a vanishing Rasengan. Now, that looked very, very weird. I thought that, the Rasengan was coming at Sasuke pretty fast. And even Momoshiki said that Sasuke was injured, so this is no way a full-powered Sasuke. He was injured, he was fatigued, he had just went through a long battle, just used up a lot of chakra and etc. But the fact that, yeah, the Rasengan was coming at Sasuke pretty quickly, but the weird thing about it was you could still see the Rasengan. It's a vanishing Rasengan, so it's supposed to be invisible. And it's supposed to only, you know, basically appear when it makes contact, pretty much. So the fact that the viewers could clearly see the Rasengan was kind of weird. Now, perhaps it probably was still invisible to the other characters, but we clearly seen it, and that's not how the vanishing Rasengan is supposed to work. So, yeah, that was pretty weird the way they did that. It's just a very small issue, but yeah, it was still pretty weird the way they did that. And then afterwards, Momoshiki tried to basically send Kawaki to another dimension and then go look for the Ten Tails that Isshiki hid. But Kawaki stopped Momoshiki from doing that because he used his fire style. He used the fire style jutsu, a self-inflicted fire style jutsu, which covered his entire body. And it was a huge burst or explosion of fire that was covering Kawaki's body. And Momoshiki didn't want to lose his only potential sacrifice for the Ten Tails. Therefore, Momoshiki, you know, he basically started to absorb the fire, and that enabled Boruto to regain consciousness as Sasuke suspected. And then Boruto basically broke his horn and regained consciousness fully. And he basically apologized to Kawaki for the trouble. And Kawaki said he basically called Boruto his brother. And yeah, that stuff was very, very cool. I wish the anime expanded upon this little fight between it essentially was the same length as it was in a manga, where in a manga this fight was very brief as well. It didn't even last past one chapter. I think it was only one chapter, but yeah, it was still cool. And yeah, but I wanted the anime to add more fighting between Boruto and Kawaki, maybe some more taijutsu scenes and stuff like that. Now, I understand why this episode wasn't as well animated and the art was kind of lacking a little bit in this episode. And it's most likely because last week's episode, they went all out. They went crazy with the Bariyama Naruto versus Isshiki fight. They went crazy with the art and animation. it seems like they went all out in last week's episode. However, this fight was actually a fight that I actually liked more than the Mo Naruto versus Isshiki fight in the manga. I actually like the Kawaki and Sasuke teaming up to fight BoruShiki fight more in the manga. Personally, I just liked it more. And I loved seeing Kawaki and Sasuke team up. They're essentially like they both are the deuterogonists of the series. Like Sasuke was the deuterogonist of Naruto, and he was like essentially Naruto's rival. And Kawaki's the deuterogonist of Boruto, and he's Boruto's rival. And they're very, very similar, and they're very cool characters. And they're both two of my favorite characters in the series, with Sasuke being my favorite character in fiction overall of all time. So yeah, I like seeing that. I actually preferred this fight in the manga, like I said, and I wish they would have added more to it and had better animation as well. The animation wasn't bad with this fight, but it wasn't nowhere near as great as last week's episode. But overall, it was very, very great stuff, and I loved how they did it. So yeah, that stuff was great. Also, I forgot to mention that when Kawaki did the fireball jutsu to Isshiki, it was kind of weird that he used his prosthetic arm that he got from Naruto to he used the hands, like he made hand signs with his regular arm and the prosthetic arm that he got from Naruto, which was kind of weird because the prosthetic arm wasn't even connected to his body. In the manga, he just used hand signs with one hand, which actually was better because, I don't know, because you could argue that him controlling that prosthetic hand was kind of weird. You could argue that, or you could argue it's a demonstration of his skills, I guess. Or, I don't know. No, actually, no. I think it was just kind of weird because it wasn't connected to his hand. So, yeah, I prefer him using hand signs with one hand like he did in the manga, as opposed to what they did in the anime, having him use hand signs with his prosthetic arm, which wasn't even connected to his arm at the time. His prosthetic hand that wasn't even connected to his arm at the time. That was kind of weird. And plus, using hand signs with one hand is actually, a demonstration of more skilled, only more skilled shinobi, super high skilled shinobi do that. Haku and Minato, those are some of the few shinobi, as well as Sasuke. Those are some of the few shinobi who can basically make hand signs and create jutsu with one hand. So it was cool seeing Kawaki join that camp in the manga, but in the anime, they had him use it with a prosthetic hand. Yeah, that was pretty weird as well. But yeah, so, and then the rest of the episode was the conversation between Naruto and the Nine Tails. Now, they added a lot more dialogue to this conversation. They added a lot more dialogue in the anime as opposed to what we had in the manga. And they also, I think they took out some dialogue as well. Like, they basically changed up some of the dialogue. I think they took out, I forgot what line they took out, but they took out something. Yeah, I think they took out something where where Naruto was talking about Boruto. Because I think Boruto was the first person he mentioned first when he woke up. Not when he woke up, but when he first started talking to Kurama. But anyways, yeah, so they changed some of the dialogue, and they added in a lot of dialogue. They made this conversation a lot longer than what it was in the manga when Naruto was talking to Kurama inside of his psyche, inside of his, his psyche plan, his Tail-B psyche plan. So, yeah, so as far as the dialogue that they added in, I think it was fantastic. I love the fact that they greatly expanded upon the dialogue that was in the manga, and in general, they added a lot more dialogue that wasn't even in the manga in this episode, and I love that. Now, there's a couple things that another thing they took out, which was in the manga, Naruto mentioned that, he mentioned the fact that the Nine Tails actually killed his parents. He mentioned that in the manga. And in the anime, they completely removed that. They didn't have Naruto mention the fact that the Nine Tails killed his parents, which actually does make sense because Naruto, he doesn't hold a grudge for that. Obito was the main one who, well, actually, no, the Nine Tails was, it was the Nine Tails, but yeah, he didn't hold a grudge over Obito for what he did. Like he said, Obito was still a cool guy when Obito died. So Naruto, he's a very forgiving person. So he's a very forgiving character. So it makes sense that he wouldn't mention that. He clearly doesn't hold a grudge over that. And the Nine Tails did save his life many times, and they ended up developing a bond and a friendship later on in the series. In particular, in the war arc, they started to develop a bond and a relationship. So yeah, so instead of, so they cut that dialogue out. But the stuff that they did mention was Naruto, he basically said that he's happy that Kawaki and Boruto are basically brothers now. And then Naruto said, yeah, that's like how you and Sasuke are. And Naruto said, well, I'm not too sure about that. He said that Sasuke had a wonderful brother with Itachi. Now, that dialogue I didn't like. That wasn't in the manga. That dialogue wasn't in the manga. That was some of the anime original dialogue that they added in there. But I didn't like that. I like Naruto basically saying that Kawaki and Boruto are like brothers now. Especially, I mean, that makes sense because he considers Kawaki his other son. He considered Kawaki his son just like Boruto. So I like that part of the dialogue of Naruto saying Kawaki and Boruto are brothers. I didn't like Naruto basically saying he's not too sure about what Kurama said about him and Sasuke also being like brothers. Now, maybe he's just referring to in the same sense, like maybe he's saying like since him and Sasuke they weren't living in the same household basically, and it's not the same exact circumstances as it was with Kawaki and Boruto, because Kawaki and Boruto actually are genuinely like real actual brothers, because they're living in the same home. They're spending, they have the same family pretty much. Kawaki is like the adopted son of Naruto. So maybe that's what Naruto was referring to. Like in the same sense, he's not exactly like Sasuke's real brother. Like how Boruto and Kawaki, they're really like real brothers. Since like I said, Naruto basically pretty much adopted Kawaki. Kawaki is like Naruto's adopted son. So Boruto and Kawaki are like real brothers. And that's probably why Naruto brought up Itachi, because Sasuke and Itachi were real brothers. However, the reason I didn't really like that dialogue too much is because Naruto himself said in part 1, he said that him and Sasuke, he said that he thought of Sasuke like a brother. He said basically when him and Sasuke was having that emotional conversation in their first battle in the Final Valley in part 1 Naruto, at the end of part 1, or shall I say towards the end of part 1 Naruto, Naruto said that this is the first time his relationship with Sasuke, that was the first time that he actually ever had a bond like that, a brotherly bond. He wondered that if, his relationship with Sasuke, he wondered if that was what it was like to have a brother. So yeah, it was kind of weird. That dialogue was kind of weird. But anyways, that's how I interpreted the dialogue. But other than that, Naruto and Kurama started basically reminiscing about the past. Naruto basically said, you were always there with me ever since I was born, pretty much. And you saved my life plenty of times. And it's been plenty of times that I would have most likely lost fights if it wasn't for you. And that's 100% true. If it wasn't for the Nine Tails, Naruto would have lost several fights, including he would have lost several fights in general. But yeah, and then, yeah, they were, basically, Nine Tails basically, he brought up the fact that people just cared about the Tail Beast's power, but Naruto was the first and only person to actually befriend the Tail Beast and actually care about them. He said that Nine Tails basically said that, everybody else pretty much just cared about the Tail Beast's power, and they referred to us as, Tail Beast, like 8 tails, 9 tails, and stuff like that. And they never referred to them by their names, but Naruto was the first one to refer to the Tail Beast by their names. And yeah, so they had a very emotional conversation, very cool. Naruto was actually screaming when he was yelling when Nine Tails started to disappear. He was like, Kurama, wait, don't go. And he also said it was pretty fitting that they would die together since they spent all of their time together and stuff like that, since they've always been together, that they would he thought that they were going to go to the afterlife together. And he thought that was pretty fitting since they've been together their whole lives. They've been together all of Naruto's life pretty much. And yeah, he thought that they were going to the afterlife together, but that was a false interpretation, because the Nine Tails said, yeah, I never once lied to you. And he said that the cost of the form, he basically said the cost of the Baryon form was his life, not Naruto's. So he's the one who was going to die, not Naruto. And he said that this is not the same as a Tail Beast extraction. Pretty much the Tail Beast chakra is just going to fade away from inside of you. And yeah, then he also said, yeah, at the very end, we were able to scare out Sasuke together at the very end. So yeah, that's pretty much what they were talking about. And just it was very great. All of that dialogue that they added in there, very, very great stuff. The only piece of dialogue that I didn't like that they added in I already explained that I didn't like. I already explained the piece of dialogue that I didn't like too much, but overall, fantastic. I love the dialogue overall for the most part. Aside from that small little minor issue that I had with the piece of dialogue I mentioned, that I said I didn't like that much. Now, yeah, after that, Kurama vanished from inside Naruto, and yeah, and also we seen the other tail beasts, and they were looking up. Shukaku was actually looking up, and the other tail beasts were looking up, and they seen that the fact that basically it seemed like they actually knew that the Nine Tails died, which that was a cool scene as well. I like that they added in there. I like that they added in the other tail beasts and showing that the other tail beasts knew that Nine Tails died. Kurama died. So yeah, I like that they added that in there. And it's also cool as well that in the anime, for the people who don't watch the anime only arcs, you guys really missed out, because in the anime, Shukaku and the Nine Tails, they pretty much made up kind of. Like they started to kind of bond a little bit and understand each other a little bit in the anime during that One Tails BoruShiki arc, when the One Tails was inside basically when the One Tails was living in the Uzumaki household for a little while, he started to bond with the Nine Tails and start to understand the Nine Tails a little bit more. So yeah, and then so it's kind of the anime only arcs. That's another example of the anime only arcs adding to the story and the emotion from the manga. To the story. That's another example of the anime only arcs adding to the story and the emotion of the story overall. Now, with all that being said, at the end of the episode, Naruto woke up and Boruto was crying, and he said, "Hey, you basically made me worry." And yeah, that's pretty much what the episode. That's where the episode ended off at. And yeah, overall, some very, very great stuff. I liked how they had the ending of the episode. Basically, the people on Twitter, the writers for the anime and stuff, they basically said that they added in 100. I think they said 104 seconds or something of new content. Of content. So basically, they didn't show the full ending, but they had the whole conversation between the Nine Tails and Naruto go into the ending, and they played a little bit of the ending music, and then they had the ending basically where Naruto and Nine Tails was fist bumping in the actual ending. They had that. It was a nice little transition because Naruto and Nine Tails was already fist bumping. Naruto and Kurama was already fist bumping, and that played right into the actual end scene of the ending scene of the ending. So yeah, all of that was cool. We also seen some basically some little pictures, like a little slideshow of basically flashback moments and memories that the Nine Tails and Naruto had together. All of those times that the Nine Tails basically took control of Naruto's body, as well as the times that they first talked and stuff, and their interactions with each other throughout the years, as well as the time that they befriended each other in the 4th grade ninja war. And yeah, it was all some great stuff overall. Some very, very great stuff. And the episode as a whole was a fantastic, amazing, tremendous episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. As usual, the story of the episode was a 10 out of 10. Another, just in general, 10 out of 10 story. And so for story, it was 10 out of 10. For the artwork, I'm going to have to give it a 9.5 because the artwork was looking a little bit off at some points during the episode. The majority of the episode had fantastic artwork, amazing, tremendous looking artwork throughout the majority of the episode. But there was a couple of scenes where the artwork was looking off, like when Sasuke got his Rinnegan stabbed. That scene was looking very, very off with the artwork, how BoruShiki was looking and how Sasuke was looking. They were looking very, very off in that scene. And also Sasuke's Rinnegan had like a white part to it. A Scarlet, I think that's how you pronounce it. A Scarlet, the white part of your eye. Rinnegan is not supposed to have that. It's supposed to be completely purple. The purple ripples are supposed to go throughout the entire eye. It's supposed to cover the entire eye. So yeah, it did have a little white part right before Sasuke got his Rinnegan stabbed. So yeah, the artwork was off a little bit. I did notice some artwork errors at some points throughout the episode, but the majority of the episode had great artwork. So like I said, 9.5 for the artwork, 9.5 out of 10 for the artwork, 10 out of 10 for the story, and for the animation, 10 out of 10 as well for the animation. Overall, another amazing, tremendous, fantastic episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. And I can't wait for next week's episode. We're going to get the end of this whole Kawaki arc, and everybody's going to return back to the Hidden Leaf Village. And yeah, I can't wait for that. So yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing and clicking that channel notification bell to be notified on all of my future videos. And drop a like if you like the video, and share the video all over the internet, and also drop a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you thought of the review and of the episode. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.